The Lexus NX450h Plus is the Japanese luxury brand's first attempt at a plug-in hybrid vehicle. It combines the familiar 2.5 litre 4-cylinder inline petrol engine with plug-in hybrid battery technology. It gives you an EV-only range of 43 miles, can be charged from 0 to 100% in 2.5 hours, takes you from 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds, and still has a very generous 545 litre boot. This car's competing with things like the BMW X3, the Volvo XC60 and the Audi Q5. Although Lexus has always produced some of the most reliable vehicles on the planet, they haven't always been the most desirable. Have things changed? Let's find out. Now, a long time issue with Lexus vehicles has been their infotainment system, and certainly how you control that infotainment system. We've had everything from a weird little joystick thing to a laptop trackpad. None of them have worked, none of them have been very good, none of them have actually been that safe in my opinion. They've moved now to a touchscreen and they've completely revamped the infotainment system from ground up, and what a job they've done, ladies and gents. This thing is an absolute revelation. They've taken the weakest point of a Lexus vehicle and made it one of the strong points. This is absolutely glorious. This being the Takumi spec, this is the largest screen you'll get in one of these. There are smaller screens a bit sort of lower down the trim levels, but this thing is fantastic. I think they owe perhaps a little bit of a tip of the cap to Tesla with some of the user interface touches, but it really is a massive improvement over what came before, and it's right up there now with some of the best infotainment systems on the market. You do also have the option of wired Android Auto or wireless Apple CarPlay, and it's that easy to flick between wireless Apple CarPlay and the standard Lexus system. And to go back into the Lexus system, you hit the Lexus logo and then there you go. It's really simple to connect your phone to it. Absolutely everything you need it to do, it does so in spades. This one's obviously also got a very good reversing camera, top-down camera, and all the other little bells and whistles you would expect of a car of this price point. In terms of the rest of the cabin layout, it really makes a lot of sense. Steering wheel is fan-bloody-tastic. I love it. Just the right number of controls at your fingertips, not too busy, very clear. Really good head-up display in this one that you can do all kinds of wonderful things with. Physical dials for things like your air conditioning temperature and your volume, while some of the other things are now built into the touchscreen. But the whole interior design and feel of this cabin is a complete home run. They've listened to people, folks. This is a home run. It's perfect. Moving into the back here, tons of legroom, tons of headroom, and really nice comfortable seats. You've got two USB charging points down there and a 12-volt socket. Heat seating in the back in this particular model. Double cup holder built into the armrest, although it's not covered, which is a tiny bit annoying. And in fairness, you could easily accommodate 3 adults in the back here. This is the plug-in hybrid version of the Lexus NX. You can get an NX starting from around about 43 grand. The plug-in hybrids start just over 53 grand, and the one I'm in today, being top of the range Takumi spec with a sunroof, is actually about 62 grand. So for those of you less familiar with Lexus models, the NX really competes with things like the BMW X3 and the Audi Q5. Now this one's a plug-in hybrid version, and I'm actually driving it in full EV mode at the moment. It can do that for 43 miles. That is a fairly accurate figure I have tested. And it just floats along the road in EV mode. It's really a wonderful thing. It's extremely quiet in here, extremely quiet. 43 miles is plenty for the average person to do their daily commute. I think the average in the UK is something like 23 or 26 miles for a daily commute. So you could do that in full EV mode. Most of the time I've had the car I've been driving in full EV mode. It's really just a couple of long runs when I've used the hybrid technology that's here. When you do need to use the petrol engine or go into hybrid mode, you've got that 2.5 litre petrol engine that you're very familiar with, I would imagine, from various Toyota and Lexus cars over the years. That's mated to the battery technology, and basically it will adapt and overcome. So it will use a combination of the power sources to get you down the road in the easiest, most comfortable, most frugal way. If the EV power runs out and you don't have time to stop and charge, but you enjoy the EV power, or perhaps you're coming into a congestion zone where you want to run full EV, you can actually press a little button down here. You just hold it down for a couple of seconds and we're now in charging mode. So that's now using the petrol engine to charge the batteries. That does take away a considerable amount of joy from driving the car, because the engine suddenly feels a little bit agricultural, it feels a bit heavy, it feels a bit slow, it doesn't suit the car at all. So for me, that's to be used in emergencies only. I would strongly suggest, by the way, that anyone that's serious about owning a plug-in hybrid and wants a plug-in hybrid gets a wall box fitted at home if at all possible. I got my Easy One charger from Bumblebee EV, linked to that in the description. It's under £1,000 supplied and installed, and really and truly it does everything you're ever going to need in a wall box. Just come home, charge your thing up, it's ready for you again in the morning. Simple, piece of cake. So when we've got this car in EV mode, I think we can safely say that it's a winner. It's got a reasonable amount of EV range. It's very, very smooth, extremely quiet, really nice to drive. It ticks every box. It's great. So I've just put the car into standard hybrid mode now, and it's still an absolutely lovely thing to drive. It's not quite as refined as when you've got it in full EV, obviously, because we've now got a fairly unrefined 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine joining the party. As this car's also got an eCVT gearbox, which I've talked about in some other reviews. It's not a traditional CVT gearbox. It's much more clever than that, but it feels like a CVT, and to your ears it sounds like a CVT, albeit slightly more refined one than you may be used to. Those anoraks amongst you can go and look up the details of an eCVT online, but just know it looks and feels like a standard one. What that means is when you accelerate very harshly, you're going to get a little bit of a drone coming from the car. When you're accelerating harshly uphill, that drone is only accentuated. But in this car, because it's so refined in all other respects, and because the cabin is so well insulated, that's a lot better than you would find in most cars with a CVT or an eCVT. So although this 2.5 litre petrol engine could definitely be more refined, and the partnership with that CVT gearbox does sort of accentuate a bit of that lack in refinement a tiny bit at times, I think it's still a more refined and still a quieter drive than you would get in, for example, a diesel Q5 or a diesel X3. So I'm currently driving the car down the bumpiest road in my neighbourhood, which is where I usually come to test out the suspension on a car, and it's just great. It's got that sort of pillowy comfort, but manages not to be boaty. Even round corners at speed, it's not exceptionally boaty, but it is supremely comfortable. We've got some epically sized speed bumps down here and some absolutely gargantuan potholes, and it's really doing a fantastic job of soaking them up. You have to say as well, seats in a Lexus are always the absolute top drawer when it comes to comfort, and no exception in this one. These things are lovely. For years now, Lexus have been producing some of the most reliable cars on the road in the world, bar none, okay? No one can argue that. They're just outstanding reliability year after year after year. What you could argue is that they don't always produce the most exciting cars, and that they've had one or two little issues, like the infotainment system, like the CVT not really meshing too well with the feel of what is supposed to be a very luxury car. They've listened, folks. They've got this one right. It's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. And this car, perhaps more than any other that I've tested, just works so well as a plug-in hybrid. It really does give you the best of both worlds, and it really suits this type of car. Now, as you know, I like to sum these reviews up by telling you how I feel about the car going back. And I'm a Japanese car fan, okay, let's get that clear. I'm a big Japanese car fan. I've had lots in the past, and in fact one of my favourite ever cars was a Japanese car. However, modern Japanese cars tick loads of boxes for me, but they often don't scratch that little emotional itch. I don't feel like I desperately want one. I don't have that sort of emotional connection to them. This one is different. I love it. I genuinely love it, and I don't want it to go back, and I'm going to cry when it goes back, quite openly, by the way. The only thing left for me to do now, folks, is to invite you to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this kind of content. I try and do a new car review once a week, if at all possible, and just try to keep you up to date with the latest goings on in new cars and new car technology, as well as lots of used car content on the channel, and of course lots of car leasing and car finance content. Please give the video a thumbs up, please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I very much look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in finding the best lease deals on a Lexus NX right now, please use the link in the video description. Thanks.